It's often said that board committees are the workhorses of the board, and indeed they often are. But what's the real purpose of board committees, and what's the ideal board committee structure? Well, if we look at the purpose of board committees, it's fundamentally to help the board in the performance of its function. And what we're really doing is getting a subset of the board, usually with relevant skills and experience, to look at a particular set of functions in a more detailed way than the board can. And this often frees up time for the board to be more strategic and look at things at a more holistic level. The other advantage of board committees is it almost acts as a bit of a check and balance between the board, just having those two different contexts in which issues are considered. Getting the structure right can be really powerful in assisting the board. Getting the structure wrong can add to the board's administration, and that impacts both the executive and the directors. So there's not really any right or wrong in a board committee structure, but there are a few common features and attributes that I think are important to take into account when a board's looking at how it might set up its board committees. So the first one is around the audit committee, and that probably is the most standard committee that any board would have, because an audit committee's got really important functions about overseeing financial performance and in particular the preparation of the financial statements, because approving them is one of the key functions of the board. I've talked in another episode about whether the audit committee should be combined with the risk committee, and that's a matter I think for each board to consider. There's probably only really one hard and fast rule with the audit committee though, and that is that as a matter of good practice, and indeed in some cases a requirement, the board chair shouldn't also be the audit committee chair, and that's part of that check and balance. The second common set of board committees that we see, particularly in listed companies, is a nomination committee, which is responsible for board nominations, and a remuneration committee that typically looks at CEO and board remuneration. What we're seeing in more contemporary boards is actually those functions are being combined into more of a people and culture committee, or a title such as that, and with the functions being broadened out to look at things like oversight of organisational culture, strategic workforce planning, strategic attraction and retention strategies, and the performance and remuneration framework of the company so that it drives the right values and behaviours as well as achieves the right strategic performance. The third comment I just make about board committee structure is that every now and then I see boards establish a strategy committee, and this can be a risky move. I say that because everyone needs to be involved in strategy and really needs to understand the strategic drivers and changes in the strategic environment. And there is a risk by having a strategy committee that you almost create a two-tiered board where you've got a subset of directors who really have deeper understanding and insight into what are really fundamental matters for the company. So it's probably the one committee that I sometimes get a little bit nervous about when I see a company form that. Hopefully though, there's some other thoughts there that might assist you and your board in looking at its board committee structure. I think it's an important thing to do on a regular basis. Look at the focus of the board, look at the board committee structure. Is the committee structure really helping the board in the performance of its functions?